In the news tonight,
stop taking people to other destinations. We are because it became a political problem to us.
Prime Minister Robina Nabanja and other ministers pledged to address concerns raised by leaders from KARAMOJA. Leaders from Kampala gathered to pay tribute to slain KAMOJA councillor James KAKOOZA. Also tonight, 25 arrested for taking part in Lubiri tribal clashes in KIKUUBE district.
I'm happy those indisciplined ones have been taken away. They have brought a new team. I believe they are going to behave.
And in sports, athletes Joshua Cheptegei, Jacob Kiplimo and Stephen Kisa in action tonight. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is PM Edition on CTV. I'm Kalachi Brian. On sign language interpretation is Isaac Luchams. Now, starting us off, the Prime Minister has convened an interministerial committee meeting to address the salient issues affecting KARAMOJA and neighboring districts. This follows concerns raised by members of parliament from KARAMOJA that their area has many gaps in service delivery that require urgent government intervention. We have more.
The Interministerial Committee meeting, chaired by the Prime Minister Robina Nabanja in Kampala, was attended by Works and Transport Minister General Katumba Wamala, Minister for Disaster Preparedness and Refugees Hilary Onek, and Minister for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities Tom Butime, among others. The meeting was held to outline the interventions aimed at improving service delivery in KARAMOJA sub-region, which is currently plagued with hunger and starvation.
In Kabong, Tim, Camion, Uzaki, Pire, Narube, Nepe, Tatap, Tuputa, Keruku, that's in Lolelia, Maine, from Yen, Lolelia South to Kacheri in Kotido.
Continuous deployment of rangers to address the challenge through scare shooting, formation of Problem Animal Control Unit. Government has recently constituted the Problem Animal Control Unit.
In his speech, the State Minister for Agriculture, Chakulaga Bwino, revealed that the Ministry of Agriculture has made 4 priority interventions for KARAMOJA.
Maturing crops, particularly providing inputs for fast maturing crops. And then the 4th one is mobilizing large-scale farmers in areas surrounding KARAMOJA.
Esther Nyakunde, State Minister for Disaster Preparedness, and a Kapilipiri woman member of Parliament, spoke out against the ongoing arrests in the area.
Fearing, they think that the government has just come to torture them. Let them do operations, yes, but get people who are in the list of the intelligence. Stop taking people to other destinations. We are, because it became a political problem to us.
In attack, land grabbing, which involves the police. The police, the land grabbers use the police, come and arrest people. Anybody who is saying, don't occupy my land, and they are taken to category.
Responding to the claims, the Deputy Chief of Military Intelligence of the Uganda People's Defense Forces Brigadier General Abdul Rumayo revealed that the UPDF has not done anything wrong in the area.
These are other issues of time because something or what is not true. If it is there, it is one person, and these individuals are heavily punished by the system. I want to make my reaffirmation and the assurance to all these ministers and members of parliament from KARAMOJA that since we know each other, because me I know you, let us work together and we are here to work with you.
Prime Minister Robina Nabanja asked members of parliament not to take long to table their concerns on the floor of parliament, but rather engage ministers for action.
What costs you or what fails you members and even ministers to invite these people to your office, in your boardrooms? Once in a while. Sure. If you can take an example, if you invited all these members of parliament, including your fellow colleague minister, in a boardroom, what is not there? What can we do?
The meeting was also attended by members of parliament from KARAMOJA sub-region and the neighboring districts to streamline service delivery. Last week, members of parliament from KARAMOJA sub-region called for a press conference to highlight the plight of the hunger in the region.
Hundreds of people have today turned up to mourn the Kampala Central Division councillor who was slain yesterday. James KAKOOZA was killed on Saturday morning as he was jogging near Centenary Park. We have more.
It was a somber mood this morning as hundreds of leaders from Kampala Central Division turned up to pay tribute to the councillor James KAKOOZA, who was brutally murdered on Saturday morning. Today, the mayor for Kampala Central Division, Salimu Uhuru, organized a special sitting to eulogize the former councillor Kamocha Parish.
And we have risen slowly.
Several leaders from Kampala, including Kampala Central MP, Kampala Capital City Authority Executive Director, and several division mayors were among the people in attendance at the sitting, which was presided over by the Speaker, Kampala Central Division.
The NRM government, the police, the security organs all over the country will combine their efforts, and they will hunt those that killed the KAKOOZA.
In his speech, Kampala Central MP Muhammad Nsebo spoke out against the crime and urged leaders to wake up and take part in community policing to fight against such violent acts.
It's been happening to many Ugandans, but we should wake up and say this should be the last person to fall victim of these hyenas. If we don't stand resolute, then we shall all follow the path of Honorable James KAKOOZA, and in such a manner. Therefore, the earlier we start village and community policing, two, the earlier we start talking, the better for all of us.
Honorable members, please, let us love one another. Let us not talk today because he's in front of us dead. Let us show love, or let us show something when someone does good. Let us learn to appreciate our leaders or our brothers and sisters when we're still alive. If I've done good, say Uhuru, you have done good. If I've done bad, come and say Uhuru, you have done bad. But not to come here and now we talk only the good part, and yet the killers are part of us here.
Nseleko further urged police and security operatives to install advanced cameras on roads to help in investigations. According to Dorothy Chisaka, the Executive Director, KCCA, a smart city has to be a safe place for all Ugandans to live in before requesting councillors to make policies which will help in making Kampala a smart city.
We have a work to do collectively to ensure that our city is safe. And I want to say to the council, Central Division Council, you are a family, and I thank you that you work together. I want to encourage you in your legislative agenda, in your purposing, the things you do as council, to come up with policies that work for Central Division specifically. There are things that you have power to do, and they can be done. So let that legislative power be utilized so that we keep our city safe.
Some of the leaders from Kampala reacted to the death of their counterparts.
I got the chance to say bye. I never got the chance to say you're a great man, you're a great councillor. Nobody told me that you're going to die. We would all come and give you these loving words that we're giving you right now.
Chief Director, the concerns have been raised on how to bring order, especially with the border borders. Not that every border rider is bad, but so many people are using that route to cause confusion, to cause risks, and disorganize the city.
Residents of Kamocha Parish were shocked to learn the death of their councillor, James KAKOOZA, who was murdered by the Iron Bar assailants as he was returning from home a daily jog. According to police, KAKOOZA's attackers are still unknown. Councillor James KAKOOZA will be officially laid to rest tomorrow in the ancestral home of Mpango, located in Gomba District. Sarah Nakandi for CTV PM Edition.
That should be the last person indeed. Now, the largest opposition political party, the National Unity Platform, NUP, has announced that it will not be taking part in the upcoming East Africa Legislative Assembly elections scheduled for September. According to NUP, the process of selecting representatives has been flawed by the ruling National Resistance Movement Party, hogging all the seats.
Last week, the ruling National Resistance Movement unveiled its 6 candidates selected to represent the country at the East African Legislative Assembly that had been selected by the highest organ of the party, the Central Executive Committee. During the same week, NRM Electoral Commission Chairperson Dr. Tanga Odoi also revealed that the ruling party had recommended that 2 slots for members of the opposition to go to the Democratic Party and Uganda People's Congress, sidelining the 2 largest opposition parties, the National Unity Platform and Forum for Democratic Change. Following the decision by NRM, the National Unity Platform Party have decided not to field a candidate in the upcoming East African Legislative Assembly election.
Shall not be part of the EALA elections.
According to the deputy spokesperson of the National Unity Platform, Alex Waiswamufumbiro, the decision was made by the National Executive Committee of the party because they did not agree with the distribution of the slots by Parliament.
The National Executive Committee found wisdom that we don't participate in an immoral election by not fielding a candidate as a party. Therefore, we will not be fielding a candidate for the EALA election given the background of the unequitable distribution of those slots.
In a statement issued on Saturday by the opposition party, National Unity Platform have vowed to take legal action at the East African Court of Justice to ensure compliance over the forthcoming East African Legislative Assembly elections that will take place in September this year. According to the deputy spokesperson, the ruling party is acting in breach of the East African Legislative Assembly guidelines.
NRM fits the 6 out of the assumption of them being men in parliament, but then they will not recognize National Unity Platform, which has over 57 members of parliament and is going to be bogged in that process that has been bastardized by the NRA, in particular General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni.
NRM's top organ, the Central Executive Committee, ruled that it will be backing 6 of its incumbent MPs, Mary Mugi, Rose Cole, Stephen George, Dennis Namara, James KAKOOZA, Paul Mwasa, out of over 100 NRM members of parliament who expressed interest. Tolo Mwangoru, reporting for CTV edition.
The Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises is pressing government to reduce on its expenditure as one of the solutions to the rising prices of essential commodities. According to the Federation, businesses that were recovering have now been affected by the soaring prices.
The last 2 years saw Uganda go into a lockdown due to COVID-19 pandemic. The outbreak of the coronavirus also saw many of the small and medium enterprises shut down. After the pandemic, most people started to come up with fresh ideas to survive, but because of the increased high prices of essential commodities and fuel, which is now approaching 7,000 shillings per litre in some locations, they are now suffering.
So that's why we are saying, let government do what it can, and part of that is reducing expenditure so that the burden on businesses is reduced, because you don't have a high tax burden, fuel, inflation, stuff. That becomes what the lawyers say double jeopardy or multiple jeopardy in this case.
The Executive Director of Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises, John Walugembe, also adds that at the moment, cost of production is high and wants government to devise means of encouraging people to embrace digital business in order to reduce on expenses.
Driving financial inclusion. So it means that we are saying, how can digital help address some of the financing constraints that MSMEs have faced in the past? We don't just want to look at digital as a standalone kind of thing. We want to look at digital as a tool that can help address the issue of access to finance through improving financial inclusion.
While interacting with the press at the headquarters, Walugembe revealed that the government of Uganda is ready to empower its citizens on the African continent free trade areas where more opportunities will be created.
We seek to position MSMEs to tap into the opportunities in the African Continental Free Trade Area through leveraging technology and innovation.
The Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises mainly focuses on a wide range of vital business development services, including advice, market access support, training, financial expertise, mentorship, and a power voice heard in government. Safi Mokile Balugu and Chris Semalemu Semakula for CTV, PM Edition.
In Uganda, 2 tribes clashed and some people were arrested. You do not want to miss that after the break. (17:09 p.m. Welcome back to PM Edition on CTV. Now, security operatives in KIKUUBE district have arrested 25 people for allegedly involving themselves in tribal clashes from Uganda that saw Alu and LUBIRI communities fight. During the fight, the 2 tribes burnt houses and destroyed property in the area.
The incident that saw the Lula and LUBIRI communities clash took place in the Regabi village located in Kaseta Parish, Boya sub-county KIKUUBE district. Security operatives led by resident district commissioner KIKUUBE, Amlantu Musimi, were forced to swing into the action to rescue the situation after being alerted by some residents. 25 people, including the area L1 chairperson of the area, Patrick Okwaroth, were arrested after having been found with arrows, spears, and pangas from the scene that they used during the fight. The fight is said to have been caused by members of the LUBIRI community who were retaliating an attack on their colleague, Ali Achikule.
Did you go with the gun? They didn't say it. You start shooting. I'm happy. Those indisciplined ones have been taken away. They have brought a new team. I believe they are going to behave.
Security-wise, we are not safe. Land disputes are now rampant. They are causing chaos, fighting, and destroying of property.
The Lugubalas were bitter are accused of beginning the fight, burning several houses, displacing at least 60 people. It's alleged that during the attack, the Alul found Achikuli setting up a structure to replace his house, which was destroyed. The RDs later convened a village meeting to hear from the people who fled from their homes.
The land was there, it was Abasura, Mukama, Askari Mukama. They're the one who have been hunting there, and when our grandfathers came this way, they found that land free. Those Abasuras could come and sit with them, they discuss with them, they go hunting down the escarpment, they come, they carry up the meat up to the vehicle and they go.
During the meeting, the RC Amlantu Simi ordered for the arrest of the L1 chairperson, Patrick Okwaroth, for inciting violence.
ni barwana n'abasana ebintu mu bweno obujuba nairo obundi obokezi nabano abalandlord yaleeta abasirikale bamulinda n'engisozi bataka kutera amasasi okuli nakuli so yafuka nzibu muno.
RDC Tumsimi has since halted all activities that were being conducted on that land and also condemned the act of tribalism.
Don't expect any virus in this land. We shall have other meeting on Thursday. At his or at our boss's office. Any challenge you find, report to your police post.
The arrested were taken to KIKUUBE Central Police Station on charges of arson, tribalism, inciting violence, and malicious damage.
Hundreds of subjects have today stormed LUBIRI Palace in Mengo to celebrate the birthday of Uganda titular head KABAKA Ronald Mwenda Mutebi II. The KAKA, who is celebrating his 67th birthday, was visited by several dignitaries from the central and Uganda government.
Mister.
Happy birthday to the king. Now, beyond Ugandan borders, in Burkina Faso, suspected jihadists blew up 2 crucial bridges to cut off the Sahel region. And despite announcing the August 20th national dialogue, rebel groups have withdrawn from talks with the Chadian interim military government. They have some demands. 2 bridges were blown up by armed groups in Burkina Faso on Friday night by suspected jihadists in the West African nation. The fighters blew up 2 crucial bridges, raising fears that they intend to isolate the Sahel region. The attackers destroyed the Wawusi bridge, forcing a convoy that was supposed to supply the town of Djibo to return to Kongusi. They also blew up again the Nari bridge, further disrupting transport in the area. The bridge was attacked for the first time on June 30th, but work was carried out to allow people to continue using the road before being blown up again on Friday night. According to testimonies and images posted on social networks, it is now practically impossible to get from the capital to Dori. The other bridge affected is the one located in the locality of Wosi on the Kongusi-Bozang road in the central north of Burkina Faso. The destruction of part of this structure forced the convoy carrying supplies to the town of Djibo to turn back. The convoy was escorted by defense and security forces. According to some NGOs, the roads linking Niamey and Ouagadougou, the main routes for imports and exports to the Gulf of Guinea countries, are no longer secure. Several groups of Chadian rebel and political parties on Saturday withdrew from talks with the African nation's military government, accusing it of seeking to destabilize peace efforts. The move by about half the groups in the talks came less than 24 hours after President Mahamat Idris Deby Itino's administration announced that a national peace dialogue intended to pave way for elections would start on August 20th. In a statement, the rebel groups taking part in Qatar-mediated talks in Doha accused the government delegation of harassment, intimidation, threats, and disinformation. The date had been set without any consultation, they added, saying it was an attempt to exclude many of the armed groups and their political allies from the dialogue. Deby seized power at the head of a military junta in April last year after his father, longtime leader Idris Deby Itino, was killed firefighting off a rebel offensive on the capital. He set out an 18-month timetable for nationwide elections, but the Doha talks have been repeatedly become bogged down, and the opposition and government representatives have not yet held direct talks. Opposition groups have demanded that Deby rule himself out of standing in the election before any talks can be held, but the government has said this can only be discussed at the national dialogue. Away from Africa, pressure mounts on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as external support declines. He, however, recruits the world to end Russia's war by December. And US President Joe Biden's visit to the Middle East has been defined by fist bumps, blunt and desperate oil talks. The details.
Українці, українки, цього дня 32 роки тому було ухвалено.
The imperative is to stop the bloodshed. Ukrainian forces are suffering as many as 200 casualties per day, and Russian artillery has killed dozens of civilians in recent attacks, with hundreds more injured. But Zelensky is also under pressure to keep the focus and support of the US and Europe allies that are being pulled away by domestic crisis, including worsening inflation, exorbitant energy prices, and fears of a global recession. Shifting political dynamics are also playing into Zelensky's curriculums. Boris Johnson has promised the strong support of the United Kingdom despite his recent resignation as Prime Minister. In Italy, pro-European Prime Minister Mario Draghi is under attack over a debt crisis in the country. And in the US, Republicans are set to make gains in the November midterms, potentially strengthening a small but provocative group of GOP lawmakers that criticize America's support for Ukraine. Under these pressures, Zelensky is setting a 6-month timeline to get as many heavy weapons to the country as possible and push back Russian forces battling low morale and exhausted manpower. Joe Biden said in a recent op-ed that his first visit to the Middle East as president was to start a new and more promising chapter of America's engagement there. But the trip may be defined by the president's blunders and an image of him fist-bumping Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Ahead of the trip, White House aides had said that Biden would limit physical contact and avoid handshakes during the trip due to COVID-19 concerns. Those concerns appeared to fall by the wayside soon after Biden landed at Israel's Ben Gurion Airport on Wednesday, when he shook hands with former Israeli Prime Ministers Naftali Bennett and Benjamin Netanyahu. During his remarks at the airport, Biden misspoke and said people should keep alive the horror of the Holocaust before quickly correcting it to horror. Some suggested the no handshake policy was an effort to avoid a problematic image of Biden shaking hands with Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler when he headed to Jeddah on Friday. Biden sought to reset the strained US-Saudi relationship by meeting Saudi leaders as he seeks to tackle soaring gas prices in the US, driven partly by Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. You're still watching PM Edition with me, Kalachi Brian, and Isaac Luchams for your sign language interpretation. We take a short break and return with sports news. Welcome back. Thank you for not blinking. In our sports news, ahead of the upcoming international badminton season with the Commonwealth Games, national para-badminton team is preparing for 2 championship tournaments. Uganda has been earmarked to host the All-Africa Para-Badminton Tournament and the Uganda International Cup in September this year. Saikasin Sekalala has the details.
Badminton and of course para-badminton, this is just an extension on our badminton program to show inclusiveness of our sport. There are so many challenges that we go through as coaches and as our players as well, but one of the major challenges is the various classes that we have amongst our players, because each and every one of them is kind of unique to himself. Each and every disability is slightly different from the other.
The president of the Uganda Badminton Association, Annette Nakamya, explains the process of classification of the players and the arrangement for the upcoming championship.
Uganda is the only country in Africa that is hosting the PARA-BADMINTON championships. So they normally come here to classify, and we give an opportunity to the rest of Africa to come here to classify their athletes, because unlike us who are body able, these people have to be classified such that one can play wheelchair, one can play with one arm, one can play with a supports crutch. So it's very important for us to make sure we bring in as many as we can, such that they can get classified, they get the opportunity to also be playing badminton.
Rita Asimwe, Uganda's best para-badminton player, reveals why she loves the sport. Asimwe is one of the sportsmen who represented Uganda at the Paralympics Games in Tokyo, Japan.
Para-badminton, I am blessed it, and I am grateful. Many of us are embracing it, which was my...
Uganda's Olympic gold medalist Joshua Cheptegei is set to run at the World Athletics Championship tonight in Oregon to defend his title in the men's 10,000 meters race. Cheptegei will have fellow countrymen Jacob Kiplimo and Stephen Kisa for company.